Hello and welcome to Diecast Restos. I'm Jason and this is a 17D Hoveringham Tipper. It was produced by Lesney for the Matchbox series between 1963 and 1969. All were painted red and had an orange tipper with a Hoveringham decal on either side. Someone has tried to make a papier-mâché load for the tipper, perhaps to mimic a gravel load that would have been hauled by Hoveringham Gravels Limited between 1939 and 1982. There was clearly no intent by Lesney to alter the purpose of the casting during its lifespan, as Hoveringham Tipper is the cast name underneath. Here's how it should appear. And here is a real Foden S21 in Hoveringham's usual all-orange livery. Very little changed on the casting during its 6 years on sale. After initially having black base plates with silver trim, a mid-cycle change saw the trim omitted as bases switched to red. My restoration will feature a red base as this one had, but I will treat it to some chrome trim. Early issues had plastic leaf springs above the first and third axle for suspension. This was removed later on, with examples such as mine instead receiving a cast pointed wedge above the first axle only. Once again I need to dunk plastic wheels in Dettol to remove the multitude of colours painted over them, before stripping the paint on the metal parts. The steam from my kettle sadly wreaked havoc with my camera's autofocus on this occasion. Hoveringham Gravels originated in the Nottinghamshire village of Hoveringham in the late 1930s. They became one of the biggest concrete and quarry operators in the UK during their existence. The company was sold to Tarmac in 1981. Harold Needler, who was owner and chairman, chose orange for his vehicles after the colour of the jerseys in which Hull City Football Club played. He was an ardent supporter and also club chairman. In the late 1950s, at the Hoveringham Quarry, remains of mammoths were discovered. From then on, a mammoth became a logo and company trademark. The Foden S21, on which the casting chassis is based, began production in 1958. Since Lesney produced a number of Foden and ERF vehicles, I cover the history of the company in those. The S21 featured an ultra-modern curved cabin, made possible by the use of glass fibre. The uprated and slightly squarer S24 arrived in 1962, which featured a tilting cab. The 21D Foden concrete truck was based on an S24, so you can clearly see the differences between the two models on those two castings. Despite the S24 arriving in 1962, production of the S21 continued until 1969. Initially, due to its completely unique design, it was nicknamed Spaceship and Sputnik. It eventually earned the nickname Mickey Mouse due to its curved appearance. Interestingly, when Foden began sales in Portugal in 1969, the trucks were badged as Podens. This was because Foden is similar to a profanity in Portuguese. You can look that one up for yourselves. The Dettol has clearly done its job, as you can see here. It looks like not only grey coated these wheels, but orange and black too. They are now rinsed with soapy water along with the hydro sleeve for the tipper. Then all 8 wheels are washed with Citadel. It will be a real treat to see these refreshed and sat on the casting once again. I reattach the hydro sleeve by sliding it in place. I can then test fit the repainted tipper. The axle pin for the tipper then slots through. Now, instead of hammering the pin in place, I will glue the end to create a bulbous lip. That will prevent me damaging the casting by reattaching the axle with a hammer. The glue should also retain the tipper pin nicely, as demonstrated here. The main axles are still reattached using a hammer, as they are not so tightly obscured. Each end is then coated in Molotow chrome. I then use both my 1 and 2mm pens to detail the headlights and grille, as were the specifications on the early models. I felt like I couldn't just leave this one unpainted, seeing as earlier examples had been treated to it. The 1mm pen is very good at filling in the hard to reach areas. Now I can apply my reproduction Hoveringham decals. I purchased these from model-supplies.co.uk. A link can be found in the description. The chunky, bold lettering is near identical to the Lesney original, and the design is very similar to the real lettering, which likely changed slightly vehicle to vehicle. Once the decal has begun to set, I apply Mr. Mark's softer solution over it and roll off the excess. Here then is how my Foden Hoveringham tipper looks previously. A creative owner had glued some cargo in the tipper that was stuck fast. They'd also painted it in grey and given the wheels a coat too. The Hoveringham decals were covered with a paper label that had been both painted grey and coloured in pink. The entire casting was a bit of a mess in all honesty. So I've opted to remove the load, the replacement label and the paint and redo it from scratch. And here it is now. It has a brand new distinctive Hoveringham decal on either side. The front has been given chrome trim on the grille section and headlights. The wheels have had the massive paint removed and instead dosed in Citadel. They look far better for it. The tipper section has gone back to being empty and received a new coat of TS12 orange. The chassis was painted in TS8 Italian red. And the axle ends were also retouched with chrome. There's a great Facebook group about the history of Hoveringham with some interesting posts. I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested. Pop over to my Patreon to preview next week's build and please contribute if you can. Thanks to all my existing members and subscribers. Do drop a like, leave a comment and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. So all that leaves me to say is thanks for watching and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.